There are two types of options, calls and puts. Today we will be learning about calls. So options are contracts, and one person is buying the contract, one party is the buyer, and one party is selling the contract. Okay, one party's the seller. Same thing goes for puts as well, although we're not learning about those today. Puts have a buyer and a seller. So I will begin by explaining calls from the perspective of the buyer. And then I will explain calls from the perspective of the seller. Buying calls. This is from the perspective of the person buying the call option, that call contract, okay? Now, I want you to think of call options as these golden tickets, as these vouchers that lock in a price, okay? Lock in a price. Basically, all they do, okay, all a call option is a promise that you can buy a stock at a set price, okay? So this is a ticket that allows you to buy XYZ stock at $6 per share. No matter how expensive or how cheap that stock gets, if you have this golden ticket, you can buy it for $6 per share. And specifically, you are locking in the price of 100 shares of stock. Okay, it's a specific amount. It's not an unlimited, you can't just buy an unlimited amount of stock for $6. It is 100 shares. And you pay $20 for this magic golden ticket because this magic ticket is not free. Okay, you had to pay $20 for this ticket. Okay, so, and this is just for our example. The price of options can range, and that depends on many factors, which we'll talk about in another video. But for this example, it cost you $20 to be able to buy 100 shares of stock for $6. Now, options expire, okay? Options expire. All options, calls and puts, they expire. So, for our example, our option is good. This is just an arbitrary, just an example. Anytime from January 1st to January 31st, or January 31st. So, anytime between January 1st and January 31st, you can buy XYZ stock for $6 a share. Up to 100 shares, or 800 shares. Now, let me give you an example of what that looks like and why you would want to do this. So let's say the XYZ stock is currently trading at $5 a share. Okay. Now, this ticket allows you to buy it for $6. Okay. So basically, one of two things can happen. Either the price of XYZ stock will stay below $6, in which case your option will be worthless, or the price of XYZ stock will go above $6, which means your option will be valuable. You can use it, or we'll use the word exercise it. You can use that option, okay? Useful. So, let's say XYZ stock goes to $100 per share. Then you get to buy XYZ stock for just $6 per share, and you only risked $20 to do it. Now, instead of having to risk $500 to do it, okay, which is what it would cost if you owned 100 shares of XYZ stock at $5. Now, so we started at $5. XYZ stock blew past $6, went all the way up to $100. In that example, that was perfect. That's what we want to happen when we buy a call. Now, let's say that XYZ stock goes to $5.50. So it goes up, but only goes to $5.50. Well, then our option's useless, right? Because our option allows us to buy the stock for $6. $5.50 doesn't help us. What if the price of the stock goes to $1? Just $1. Well, then our option also expires worthless. But, and here's a bit of the magic. We only paid $20. Okay, so the price of XYZ stock plummeted to $1, but remember, we only risked $20. Had we owned 100 shares of XYZ stock, had we owned 100 shares worth of XYZ stock, which would be costing us $500, we would have lost $400, but instead we only lost $20. So, basically, calls do two things. Okay, so the first thing they do is that they limit your losses. Limit your losses. It's using, buying calls is like climbing a mountain with a safety rope, okay? Should the stock plummet, you can only lose so much money. You can only fall so far. So that's the first thing. It limits your losses. Second thing that they do, so that was, number one was limiting your losses. Number two is they give a massive boost to gains. Okay? Because, remember, we only risked $20 in that last example. With that $20, we were able to make $9,580. So with just 20, we were able to make this much money. So calls can give a massive boost to your gains. Now, this may seem like an extreme example, but call options are very volatile, much more volatile than stocks, and you can get massive gains with relatively small amounts of money invested. That does happen every day. Just as a quick recap, when you are buying calls, the benefits are that your losses are capped. They are limited to the amount that you paid for the premium. That is the most you can lose. Also, your gains are unlimited and magnified. So you can make a very large amount of gains with a small amount of money when you are trading call options, when you are buying call options. When you sell a call, we're talking about selling calls, you are on the other end of the exact same transaction we just talked about, but as the seller. Okay, so let's say XYZ stock is trading at $5 a share. You sell a call, okay? That means you earned $20, okay? Earned $20. And no matter what happens, no matter where this trade goes, you get to keep that $20. It goes into your brokerage account immediately as soon as you sell the call, and you keep it. It is yours. So, now, stock is trading at $5. You sell a call, you earn $20. And with the call, you agree that you will sell your stock for $6 per share. Okay? $6 per share. Now, let's say the XYZ stock goes to $100 per share, just blowing from $5 to $100 a share. Okay? So, in that instance, you will not have lost any money. Okay? You will sell your stock, not for $5 a share, not for $100 a share, but for $6 per share. So you will earn $600, which is $100 more than the stock was trading for when you sold this call, and you will get an extra $20. So you will earn $620. Now, the downside is, the catch is, that you missed out on the potential upside, because if you hadn't sold the call, then you could have sold your stock that you owned at $5. You could have sold that for $100 a share, and you could have earned $10,000. But instead, you only made $620. However, let's say that XYZ stock stays at $5. It doesn't budge. So by the time January, mind you, these things expire. It's only good from, like we said, January 1st to January 31st. So this whole time, the stock never goes above $5, or maybe it does for a little while. It comes back down. And by January 31st, the stock is trading at $5. Well, as long as it's below 6, nothing will happen. You still have the same amount of stock. It's worth the same amount, and you made $20. So all that happened in that instance was you made $20. Of course, the last thing that can happen is the stock can plummet. So let's say it goes to $1 per share. Okay. Well, now your stock that was worth $5 is only worth $1, but at least you made 20 bucks. The benefits of selling calls are, 1, you get paid, you get a premium. In this case, it was that $20. And 2, as long as you own the underlying stock, you cannot lose money. So calls are safe as long as you own the underlying stock. And we'll talk about that briefly just for a second, what I mean by that. This next part might get confusing, and if it does, just ignore it for now. I just want you to make sure that you understand the first part of this video up until this point, because if you do, you will have a very good basic understanding of how call options work. But I will explain this to you because it is important. When you are selling a call, there are 2 ways to do it, okay? You can sell a covered call, or you can sell an uncovered or naked call. Okay? And the differences between these are very significant. So when you're selling a covered call, that means you own the underlying stock. And when you're selling a naked call, that means you don't own the underlying stock. So let me show you what the difference looks like. So back to our example. Oh, got our little number line here. Okay. So XYZ stock, it's trading at $5. You sell a call for $6. Let's say that XYZ stock goes to $100 a share. Okay. And let's say that you are selling a covered call. Covered. Meaning that you own the underlying asset. You own the stock. Okay? So in that case, this would suck because now a stock that's worth $100 a share, you don't have to sell for $6 a share. But even though emotionally that wouldn't be very fun, you would just hand over your shares, okay? You already have the shares in your account. You can just hand them over. But, let's say that you sell a naked call. That means you don't own the shares. Okay? Well, in that case, XYZ stock is currently $100 a share on the exchange. You agreed to sell it for $6 a share. That means you have to go on the exchange, pay $100 each for 100 shares of XYZ stock. That's $10,000. Oh, gosh. That's $10,000. And then you have to sell your stock for a mere $600, which means your loss would be, you would lose $9,400, not including that options premium, which is, $20. The premium, the money that you get to keep. So, you add that, and so, it's 9,400 or 9,000, you're losing $9,380 on that trade, okay? So this is a massive, massive, massive loss when you're only making $20, okay? So basically, my point is, when you're trading a naked option, your losses are not capped. Your losses are unlimited, okay? So when you're trading a covered call, you cannot lose money. Okay. A covered call, you cannot lose money because you already own the shares, you're getting the premium and you're selling your shares. If you have to sell them, you're selling your shares. So you cannot lose money. But with a naked call, you can lose an unlimited amount of money. There's no limit to the amount of money you can theoretically lose. XYZ stock could theoretically be $1 million a share, right? Like theoretically. And so there's no limit to how much you can lose. So this is the most dangerous type of option. Okay? This is the most dangerous type of option there is. And it is not recommended and not often not often traded. Okay, this is a rare type of option. These are much more common. These are used as passive income, and a lot of people really like these, especially older people in their portfolio. It's just a nice form of passive income. Hope that this presentation on call options made sense. This was just intended to be sort of a little basic explanation. It is a bit simplified, so my intention is that you will watch this, understand it, and then as you continue to watch other videos and look at other people's explanations, that will help you build on your understanding. But this is just a super basic explanation to help you get a good, solid, general basic idea of how call options work. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you want me to make any other videos.